You spend 3 months getting them ready. They're doing good for 3 months. And then 2 months later, they leave to go to the next opportunity.
Despite any type of economic uncertainty, that is a solid company.
All we need as business owners is a template, and ChatGPT is literally the best assistant you'll ever get. It doesn't miss.
I didn't even know this was wrong, but bam, failure smacked me in the face. I have an opportunity to grow. Because guess what? They want to be aligned with you, and so do your clients. If they're not sure about this particular procedure, how did I communicate this wrong and where? It's like emotional algebra. Say that's like the smartest thing I said in a year.
Like X emotion plus X emotion equals Y outcome, right? If you go low and are calm and are soothing, then that brings that conversation from high frustration back down to neutrality.
What we're going to talk about is truly taking what you've learned and having it go on a different level in your mind, and really a way of kind of rebooting your operating system on life, because you haven't been doing the things that you've learned thus far at this event, and the majority of the things that you've learned at this event, you haven't been, is brand new information. You haven't known, so we have to inject all of this in there, and we actually have to make it come to life and have it happen. Okay, so you learn sales and you get better at sales. Totally true statement. You learn marketing and you get better at marketing. Also very true statement. But if you don't learn people, you're not going to be able to implement these concepts or grow your company. Okay, who am I? I need it sometimes, you know. Okay, so I'm this guy's CEO. You love every minute of it. I'm also the wife to this very wonderful man who you're really easy to be married to now, but we had to go through some growing pains initially. But we've been together for 10 years, by the way, too. 10 years. Very proud of that. You're fantastic. And we have 4 amazing kids. Look at those guys all sunburned. We were in Mexico. It was awesome. So I have my bachelor's degrees in business and sociology. I worked in finance and raised capital for 10 years before I retired in 2016 after reaching my 9-figure annual raises. Whoop, whoop. And Series 7 and 63 licenses. Back to serious shit. Okay, so these are the firms I worked for. I got my start interning at Wachovia Securities. I was blessed to have a dad who, I am breathing, who was in the stock market in the 80s when it was like the wild, wild west and everybody was making a shit ton of money and flying to New York all the time. And I got a love for that early on. I'm originally born in Kansas. So growing up, we never talked about money. Never talked about it. I didn't know. We had money, well, growing up, but we didn't talk about it. I didn't know what a Mercedes was until I was 14 in my super bougie high school. And I was like, oh, that's what that is. I just didn't know. So when I was 16, I convinced my dad to let me intern at one of his brokerage offices. And I was doing this basic paperwork portfolio crap for these super wealthy families. And it was just, I was going through investment objectives and whatnot. And it was the most fascinating shit I had ever seen. Like, everybody sees a nice car driving down the street like a Lamborghini, and you secretly think, like, what does that guy do? How much money does that guy actually have? Like, that's an expensive as shit car. Like, what does he do? Everybody wants to know. Everybody wants to peel back the cover and see what's underneath. So I was able to see the innards of all of these different super wealthy families, whether it be like some single dude in Vegas or like this guy that was, married, no kids, but they have money, so they have these houses all over, and how we put together that portfolio. And then there's like, I love looking at the families with like 5 kids and how they structured stuff with their finances, how they were going to set their kids up for success in the future. I was like absolutely hooked. And so I started working full-time in college at this firm right up the street from my house. And it was game on. I worked my ass off. I was a little assistant back then, but I fucking crushed it. And I no matter what, I was always there. I was cleaning off the coffee maker. I was doing everything. Like, I was above that. Like, I was helping build portfolios. I was helping assign assistants to brokers based on their strengths and if they actually knew what options were and whatnot. But I didn't care. If there was trash, I picked it up. I worked my ass off. I did whatever it took at any job, and I did it the best. And I was recruited super early when I was young by a broker's wife who works at Walton International. And I sold a limited partnership to high net worth investors, big bougie families and whatnot. And I was young. And I don't, look that smart. When you look at me and a lot of people that are 60 years old with a wealthy family, like it was easy to get a meeting because I'm not ugly, but it was hard as hell to actually get that money and for them to make the sale because nobody really takes you that seriously, right? So that was where I seriously grew my hustle muscle, crushing all those meetings, really learning how to structure a really complicated investment, translate the value to them super effectively and get it sold. And then I was recruited by Highland Capital Management here to grow their retail division. And now the thing that I learned the most, beyond sales, beyond any, super intricate SOP of these firms, was how the management carried themselves. How the head of the whole operation truly was the pulse of the firm, whether the workers were happy, whether the sales guys were actually profitable. It was all based on the one guy at the top, whether they knew it or not, whether they wanted to admit that or not. And the ones that treated their SOPs and their new fancy tools that they learned and all the things that they wanted these guys to do, okay, this script, this, that. If they just treated you like a robot, it wasn't going to be effective. They had to really, really be one with their people. They had to set the example, and they had to really care. So this I think this was like 2 days ago. This says, inflation continues to decline across most major economies. Blah, 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 fancy graph. Looks like inflation's going down. However, wait, this says 2023. God damn it, this was in an article like 2 days ago. That's not new. Anyways, 2023, a year ago. But I mean, it's 2024.
That's that high school education.
The Q2 of 2024. I need 2024 on this thing, and I need new data. Anyways, moving on. Same trend. They're still saying that. What do you think Bob, who's shopping at Walmart, says about this? Bob's going in. He lives in Fayetteville, Arkansas. He's going to go get some hamburger meat, some tacos, and some Michelob Ultra. What do you think he says about this inflation going down?
Well, as a cattle rancher, I can tell you that beef's up 400% in the last 3 years. And in chicken right now, in the poultry industry, we just lost 3.6% of all egg production in the U.S. So if you thought eggs were expensive before, and maybe you're not an eggs for breakfast eater, but eggs are in almost everything, right? We mix dairy and eggs with almost everything. There's a huge farm in South Dallas here where they produce dairy milk for most part of the state, and there is a bird flu epidemic happening to the cattle there as well that they're going to end up having to put them to sleep and burn their bodies because they won't be able to use them for food. So this says inflation is going down, and I can tell you that they don't judge everything. And since 2012, the statistics that the government gives us, I'm loyal to the tinfoil, by the way. The statistics that the government gives us are politically charged to help whoever's in office by whatever backed media. When I worked in the mortgage market, we would see all the time that they would say, oh, well, these things are happening and mortgage rates or mortgage applications are up or down. And we were actually on the front lines dealing with Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley and stuff. And we'd be like, this is not true because we're actually getting reports from the clearinghouses, not some government or media skewed. So this could actually be inflation for steel or inflation for certain goods, not all goods. But I guarantee you, like you said, to use your example, Bob in Fayetteville is definitely feeling prices right now. So are a lot of your customers, which is why you have to get better at sales skills and at marketing because things are more expensive. But, I paid 70 grand 4 years ago for this Rolex. You could probably pick it up for 50 now. So luxury, some of the things somebody I was just talking to earlier, one of the gentlemen said, he bought 70 houses and that were prefabbed houses. Where's that guy at? There you are. I couldn't see you behind the guy there. He said he bought 70 prefab houses. And then when 2020 hit, they raised the price $30,000 per house, and now those prices have probably come back down a little bit, but we had such a little bit, right? But just a little bit, right? But we had such a huge inflation because the whole country was shut down for a year and a half, and people couldn't work. Production wasn't out there. So of course, supply and demand, things are going to go up. And we're just now starting to get some relief from that. I don't know if that's the answer you wanted, but.
That was very long-winded, but it was great. Loved it. Okay, so Bob's
feeling it.
No, Bob's like, the fuck inflation's going down, asshole, Thaddeus from Bain & Company. It's not true. It's not true. So bottom line is, we're just going to assume the gentleman from New York who...
Is Thaddeus.
I like that. Okay. So the problem, and then when I was in the stock market, this is what made me so good, is that I acknowledged the people aspect. This is why when I was doing my business degree, I wanted a degree in sociology too. That really understanding, okay, business is great, but it's driven by people. You got to understand societal trends, and understanding what's next in the stock market is when you look at the people, really. Okay, I can do the valuations of a company all day long. I can do some math, that's easy. But people, that's the variable that everybody underestimates. And when these economists make these predictions and whatnot, they're just looking at statistics and graphs. They're looking at what's on paper. They're not actually looking at the heartbeat. There's a heartbeat behind inflation. There's a heartbeat behind what's going on with this economy. And if people do want to buy this or buy that, it's a decision that we're making. We can kind of predict it, but not to a certain accuracy. It's the exact same with companies. We can't just sit here and create all of these fantastic tools and different mechanisms that we want to put in without acknowledging the heartbeat behind your company and acknowledging the people in it, and just making an individual connection with every single individual person. Even me and the janitor, me and Beto are tight. You know, I know him. I know what he wants, and I have an understanding. I kicked that like twice. Understanding that these people, you know, when you train people with these new fantastic things, I'm gonna like knock this over. When you train people with these new tools, with these new fantastic sales scripts that are just gonna get so much sales happening, what happens if they leave in a year? You gotta hire someone new, you gotta train all over again. You gotta go through the same thing, and you are seriously stunting your growth as a company, having to do that over and over again. If you invest that time and effort and energy into one gal that you truly care about, you talk to her, you have the conversation, where do you want to be in 5 years? What really makes you happy? What are your hobbies? When you align yourself with that person, when you keep them for 20 years, the value injected into your business, that is rocket fuel. Tenure is rocket fuel. The proprietary knowledge she's going to have after being with your firm, implementing that, guess what? She's the person that can even train those other people what you just taught her. You don't have to do that shit anymore. When you truly look at each and every employee as somebody that's a person that you care about their future and you want to align your future with theirs, that is an unstoppable company. Despite any type of economic uncertainty, that is a solid company.
Can I interject something here?
You absolutely can, handsome.
The average lifespan of an employee in a company is 5 years. That's like across the board in the United States of America. But that includes government and military jobs where a lot of people are trying to retire. That includes a job like you and I were talking about, Mario. You know, he's worked for UPS for probably 20 years now, you know, makes 170 grand a year, has all these benefits, 401k, stock options. He's never going to leave UPS until the day that he retires. None of us in this room, from what I can tell, are UPS. According to HubSpot, one of the largest CRMs in the country, according to HubSpot, the average salesperson after COVID, so after 2020, the average salesperson hops jobs every 8 months. So think about that. You spend 3 months getting them ready. They're doing good for 3 months. And then 2 months later, they leave to go to the next opportunity. And here's the thing. I've got a friend that's down the street, Mike Wolf. He's been my friend for 25 years. And he's my best friend. I've known him since I was 16, and he's 20 years older than me. He was my first mentor. He's been with the same company since I met him when I was 16. The same company. This guy has done mortgages for the parents, the kids, the grandparents. His phone numbers never changed. His emails never changed. This is a dude, he'd get mad if he heard me say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. He doesn't have a team. He doesn't have an assistant. He doesn't have a large production. And the guy does $100 million a year in mortgages because think about it. If you can get people to also be consistent and stay, like if you've been at the same company for 10 years, a lot of people are like, wow, that's amazing. When you meet somebody, it's like, how long have you worked there? And they're like 10 years. You're like, wow, that's a lot. That must be a great job. So think of the perception of your company. If your employees are saying, hey, I've worked here for 5 years, 10 years. Oh, I love this place. And they still love it all that time later. And now their referrals can always find them in the same place. If you're a salesperson, the best thing you can do is find a good company and latch onto that company and stay there. Even if you get opportunities to go make money somewhere else, or maybe somebody gives you a 10% higher commission split, the stability is actually a long-term payoff and a power move more than anything else, because everybody loves, like when they say, oh, I'm going to send this deal to Amy. She's been with this company for 10 years. That automatically signifies trust, stability, and those things. So something to consider for business owners and employees in this room.
When I was working for Wachovia, there was, I mean, it's hilarious. They would give these chicks that would work there in the operations team excellent service for like, these girls have been there for 20, 25 years. And it was awesome. Like, man, they knew what they were doing. These girls were competitive with their tenure. It was adorable. They had these framed things on their desks, and they were competitive over that tenure. And you know what? Those girls, we didn't have to look up anything online. They knew what to do, what protocol, with what type of account. Because one of my big things was I opened reinsurance accounts in Turks and Caicos when I was 19. That was fun shit to do. It was crazy what car dealers do in the New England region. But no, they knew everything. I realized, I'm like, and I would compare this in my mind. I was always just the managerial mind. Looking at these workers, that they were energetic, they were motivated, they were wanting to move fast, but they didn't have the knowledge or wherewithal of the company protocols of how to actually do what they needed to do, right? Like, they wanted to do all of these neat things with their clients. Okay, Bob over here, he just came into $3 million. We're going to try and do this and that. And they were like, okay, but there's limitations, there's protocols, there's different things you got to do in order. Okay, that's a great idea, but in order to make that happen, there's protocols within the company. How much of a bitch is going through, like, having to find, okay, this, I got to do this. And then it's paperwork. It just is the bane of my existence. It just takes so much longer to make shit happen. There's always a protocol. When you've got somebody on staff that knows, you need those 4 forms, they're right here, I've already got them, this, boom, on to the next deal. On to the next deal. I would always love that. Her name was Nancy Rossi. I loved her. I learned so much from her. And side note, it always drove me crazy. These women, they hustled, they were so smart, but they're making like 50 grand a year. And then there's these stockbrokers making millions. And I'm like, why don't you just get a Series 7 and fucking do what these do and run laps around them? Anyways, song for another time. But I get on tangents. So an effective CEO acknowledges whenever you give somebody a task to do, all of these 4 different things are immediately happening in your employee's mind. You're giving them a task to do. And in your mind, as their superior, you're like, okay, I'm giving this thing to do. I need you to create this like RSVP form for this quarterly meetup we're having next week. And then, okay, boom. And I am thinking, I give you that task, you're going to go do it. Awesome. In the meantime, though, that employee, have they ever done that before? Do they know how to do that? Do they have the graphics they need? Understanding the elements and understanding that there's other variables along with that task, making sure that they're confident and that they can do that. Otherwise, what happens, who here has an employee that takes entirely too long to do things that are very simple?
Well, I better not raise my hand. They're watching.
So anybody that it's procrastination, insecurity, anxiety, they don't know how to do it, or they don't have confidence in their ability to do it. It's that simple. And a lot of people are afraid to admit weakness. They're afraid to admit fault. They're afraid to say, I don't know how to do that. I need help. So when you give a task, understanding these 4 things, no matter what you give them, those are in their mind. They have to have those 4 abilities in order to get that done. And you can't just blanket give tasks to do. If you keep doing that, that's going to lead to burnout, and that's going to lead to you having to get a new employee. Okay.
How many people in here own a business? Raise your hand again. So how many of you, leave your hands up, and if I'm wrong, you put them down. How many of you struggle to write SOPs and KPIs for your people? Okay. Go to ChatGPT and tell it to write them for you. All we need as business owners is a template, and ChatGPT is literally the best assistant you'll ever get. It doesn't miss. You go to ChatGPT and you're like, I need to write an SOP for an assistant to a radio advertising company that does the following 4 things, blah, blah, blah. It'll actually write the whole template for you, and you can go back in and rearrange things on how you need. You could do that for every position in your company in like 30 minutes. I just saved you 10 years worth of work in like 30 minutes. Guys that are training sales teams, you want to write sales SOPs and what they do, the process they go through, when to inspect the roof, when to write the quote, when to go back and follow up, when to ask for the Yelp review, when to ask for referrals, all those things. It'll do all of that for you, and at least it'll create an awesome template for you to where you can go back and adjust it to your specific needs. See, the problem is we'll look at a blank computer screen and we're like, shit, I never wrote an SOP before. What do they even look like? I never worked for Wachovia or Highland Capital, or I don't even know what those things look like. And then, but ChatGPT does. It'll give you at least a template. All we need in life is a template to work with, and we can get it from there.
I love that. Be very specific with your prompts, though. Don't just go, write me SOPs.
Right.
Give your industry, be
to it like you talk to an employee. Yeah. Like give
the
it detailed instructions.
Specific of a prompt you give, the better it's. I mean, it's a computer. It's smart. Who here has used ChatGPT? It's so badass. Like, oh my gosh. I'm like, you can read my mind. And yes, I needed that. Thank you. I love it. Anyways, love that. So this, they had a neck. I don't know what happened to their neck. I think there's more little fancy words on their neck, but that's okay. We'll do just the heads on these guys. So this is not my graphic. I stole it off the internet, but it's fantastic. And it talks about a CEO's mindset, growth mindset and fixed mindset, success versus failure. Read through those, and every single one of those is so simple, and every single one of those is on the growth mindset is something that I encourage you to speak into your people. It is unreal how many people do not have a growth mindset at all. How many people are in this fixed mindset. Like, I think in terms of, so I've got 4 kids and they're all in school. It's like they are taught to have a fixed mindset. They are taught to just be little order takers. They aren't taught to be truly in celebration of failure. Of, I got an opportunity to learn something. I was going. I didn't even know this was wrong, but bam, failure smacked me in the face. I have an opportunity to grow. We're going to pivot. We're going to be even better. That's not something that's spoken into people. And the most successful people on this planet are people that didn't wallow in failure, didn't wallow in anything at all. They saw everything as an opportunity, everything as a reason to be positive, saw things with positivity. I used to be made fun of by my family growing up of how positive I was. They're like, oh, of course. And I'm like, fuck yeah, like, yeah, I'm going, you know? No, but it's so uncommon for people to have. Who has family members in the fixed mindset? Everybody. It's so rampant, and it like aches my bones. Like, I try to like speak positivity into as many people as I can every single day. Because guess what? Things are contagious. Feelings and thoughts, these types of emotions are contagious. When you're next to somebody that's just like having a bad day and they're negative, like you can, like it's just, like you just want to, get away from that. But when you're with people that are positive and they feel good, that makes you feel good. If you are that for your company, when people feel good, they're motivated, they want to do what you ask them to do. They want to. They want to succeed with you. They want to help you grow your company. They want to make those sales. They want to be aligned with you. And so do your clients.
Can I interject something?
I knew you were going to. That's why I paused.
That's why you brought me up here. You could have been speaking by yourself.
You're smart and stuff. What do you have to say?
You guys have learned in the last 2 days how to build an online presence, you know? And I just want to give you a warning and just be real with you. Because everybody in here raised their hand when they said, who has family members with limited mindset or fixed mindset? You're going to start, Brock, you're going to start posting on Facebook and you're going to start telling your story. And your family members are going to be like, Brock, who gives a shit if you packed a cooler today? Okay. They're going to say, David, who do you think you are? Tony Robbins now? Oh, you Tony Robbins, right? I know you from the streets, bro. You're not Tony Robbins, right? And they're gonna start trying to be the crab in a bucket mentality. Oh, you think you're some motivational speaker? You think we care that you went to the grocery store? You think we care that you look at people that drive stupid in their cars, right? They're gonna start trying to get you to be quiet. And all you can do to those people is like she and I talked about it earlier, is you can block them. When I wrote my book, Hardcore Closer, my grandma and my dad called me. I haven't talked to them for 14 years. They called me and they were like, if you publish this book, you can't come to Christmas this year. And I went, you know what? There's 10 people in our family, and I'll miss all 10 of you. But there's millions of people that need to read this book, and I've got to choose these millions of people who need their lives transformed. That guy that said he was in prison last night would have never been able to see my podcast and be a better person if I hadn't wrote that book. Do I miss my family sometimes? Yeah, but I had to make a choice. And I'm not telling anybody here that you have to make a choice, but there are going to be people that show up with this fixed mindset, and they're like, oh, you're like trying to be the social media influencer now. You think you're cool? It's like, I don't think I'm cool at all. I just think that I have a bigger mission than maybe what you think I have. So just prepare yourselves for that, because it's most likely going to happen.
I think those are the most powerful conversations I have with people that they're struggling with family. The family will resent you for having a certain level of accomplishment because they see you as their equal. They see we came from the same place and you are doing all of this, but I'm not doing all of this. They don't acknowledge, if they acknowledge that you are successful and they're not, then they're acknowledging that you have something they don't. And they don't want to admit that you're more special than they are. So they will give you hate. They will be cruel. And they aren't necessarily doing that intentionally. It's that people they resent their family members who are more successful than them. And they don't know why. What is it that you have that I don't?
Well, it's like that time when your sister got married. She got married at like the VFW, and we showed up at the airport in the small town in a private jet. We spent more in jet fuel to get there than her sister did on the wedding, and and I don't say that to like brag, but
American Legion.
The American Legion, right? And again, it's like at that point there you could feel the tension, like, oh, that's the rich part of our family or whatever. Or, oh, they're the guys from Dallas. We're just the people who live in Ames, Iowa. So I mean, it wasn't said out loud, but you could definitely cut the air with the knife. And it wasn't like, we've arrived by private jet, everybody. It wasn't, fuck, we arrive everywhere that way. That's just how we get around. But that's, you would have thought that was, we'll roll out the red carpet for the Stewman family or whatever.
Talk about that. Like her little maid of honor was talking about that. Everybody else was talking about it. We weren't talking about it. We don't announce that. We don't care.
Probably the whole town of 20 people was fucking talking about it. They ain't seen a jet like that fly in there ever, probably. But, that's what happens though, in reality.
There was like 30 people there. We paid the bar tab, and what was it, like $150? Yeah.
Dude, I need to come drinking up here more often.
I know. What was it? You gave him but the bartender, because we had to leave a little early because we had to leave like same night. And you gave him what, $200? And the guy was like, but it's only 150. We're like, okay. Well, what do I do? They're like, you can keep it as a tip. Really? Yeah. Thank you. Like, it was like, no, this is very, anyways, it was funny. Oh my gosh. Good times. Okay. So when training your team, these are the 5 most fantastic, 6, I can count. Fantastic, super simple things to remember in terms of teaching them anything new that they've never learned before. Because think about it, you guys, they've got a full-time job already. They've already got a to-do list. They've already got everything they need to do in their day, and you're giving them more shit to do. They're going to be excited about the opportunity to make more money, but not necessarily excited about more shit to do. More shit to do. So the first one, ask, don't tell, don't yell. So if why? Because your nickname is Old Yeller? Not anymore. You're not literally Yeller anymore. You've handled that. So if an employee comes to you with a question, like, hey, how do I do this on PowerPoint? I don't know. I didn't think of a question. So if an employee comes to you with a question, don't do it for them. Don't immediately answer the question. Ask them, what do you think? If you answer all of their questions for them, then you're really doing their job for them. Why do you have them in the first place if you're kind of doing their job, right? Give them the opportunity to grow. Give them the opportunity to learn. Give them, like, do this with your kids too, by the way. Give them the opportunity to find their own answer, right? And guess what? Odds are they'll actually know the answer to it. They just weren't confident enough to own that. But it's fantastic conversations come from that. Okay, drip, don't drown. When you're giving them something new, don't just open the fire hose. Don't just get it all at them at once. Don't give them the giant laundry list of all kinds of shit to do, because then it's just gonna be a giant list. It's gonna be daunting. They're not gonna know where to start. Implement maybe one new thing a week. Structure it out. Don't give them a giant thing of like, here's all my notes from Convergence. Yay. Make it a plan. Make it something that you drip. You're gonna drown them if you just give them all Convergence notes. It's amazing information, but it's a lot. Okay, listen and actually hear. Don't listen just because you feel like, okay, you need to listen to what they say. Okay, I'm listening. Okay, and I'm going back to what I'm doing. Take the time to critically listen. Take the time to hear what they're saying, and maybe think about how maybe other people in other departments might have similar questions. Maybe think, okay, if they're not sure about this particular procedure, how did I communicate this wrong and where? One of my favorite things that I teach my kids and you is that everything is my fault. Everything. And that's not a negative thing. That's not a, oh my God, I'm depressed, I fuck up all the time thing. Everything is my fault. Somebody cuts me off, that's my fault. How could I have prevented that? When you look at everything and understand how you can learn from it, it is the most gigantic blessing on your life. The amount of lessons that show up that would never have shown themselves otherwise, right? And those lessons are going to probably show up even bigger in the future. Maybe not being cut off, maybe someone's going to fucking hate you at some point for you to learn that lesson. So taking this small impedances and really learning that as a big lesson is huge. And when somebody comes to you with a question, when somebody has feedback, really let it reverberate throughout other different channels of your company and understand how could I have prevented this question? That's my favorite one. Okay, being open to new ideas. When you have so much fantastic procedures and protocols, it's hard for employees a lot of times to really just be receptive to all of them. I think, right? A lot of them will have, especially ours, I love being communicative with our companies, like personally. I love having a conversation instead of just giving giant laundry list of shit to do. Have a conversation. What do you think? What do you want to this is what I think, but I don't do your job all day. Is this something that we actually do? Do you like this? Is this something that you actually resonate with? Really actually hearing your employees and they've been doing their job for how long? A year. You have not done their job. They've been doing that job for 1 year, 2 years. They have different insight than you. So even though you might have a good idea, be receptive to what their feedback is. And when their ideas have a profound impact on the company, tell them that. Find time to go and say, look, you wanted me to go and give this extra bit of feedback. You wanted me to go and have this on the back end with these clients once they came to, it was fantastic. It was great. Guess what? They're going to come to you with even more fantastic ideas, and that person might even grow in their position within your company. Turn to your team for counsel. You do come to me for counsel all the time. You're very smart. You're great.
I think a great example of that's Dylan. Dylan, how long have you worked here? 2 years. And so year one, Dylan's very quiet. And if you don't ask him any questions and you do the opposite of all these things, he'll do his job, he'll perform, but he's not going to offer anything to you. One day we bring Dylan in the conference room and we have a unpleasant conversation about we need things done, this, that, and the other. Dylan looks at me and he goes, I'm not a fucking idiot. I sold my last company. I'm only working here for fun because I like you. I had no idea that was even the case. Like the people that hired Dylan had never relayed that message to me. And I'm like,
I'm a badass and you're welcome for even being.
And he goes, if you're open to it, I have some ideas. And I'm like, I'll hear you out. And now this guy makes a lot of money for our company and does huge events all over the place. And
David Spade for events and commission. I'm like, what?
He's
we can do that.
He's really become a good revenue generator for our company. And now that I know that, and it's been brought to my attention, I see the attention to detail. Notice when I asked, hey, my wife's turned around, can we get a TV up here? There wasn't anybody pointing fingers. Two dudes hauled ass faster than they've carried the microphone at any point in this whole thing and came up here and plugged the TV on and it worked.
Love you guys.
Right? So all because of these 6 things taking place and being open to his new ideas. He sat down one day and he goes, I got ways that we can make $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a year in this company. Okay, well, let me have it. And then he does it.
Because he previously had some assholes he was working with who never fucking listened to him. Is that correct?
And then he actually went and did that. I told you don't talk much.
That's awesome. I love it. Okay, so this is my my cheat code to people. Cheat code to people. I like it. Okay, so me and you were just spitballing one day, and I was. This all stemmed from sweet little 2-year-old daughter. Who here has like young toddler age children? Yeah, a couple. Yeah. Sleeping next to toddlers is fun. So our sweet little 2.5-year-old is like a ninja. Likes to come. We've been great about like letting her like stay in her bed now. She doesn't like I'm charging through the night wanting to just like beat us to a pulp anymore. But she'd be up and she'd be crying. And he would get frustrated, naturally, a grown man woken from his sleep, not a happy guy. Nobody who's half asleep is like, oh, what is this? But I explained to him, okay, she doesn't feel good. Pain plus yelling doesn't equal a happy child, okay? And he's like, oh. I'm like, yeah, you got to look at this as like an equation, okay? Everybody's an equation. If one person has one feeling, you insert another feeling into this equation. If you like look at the result of what you want. Look at how they are. What do you want out of this? That's what you do. That's how you figure out what you do to get to a resolution. Like, oh, it's like emotional algebra. He's like, that is the smartest thing. Say that was like the smartest thing I said in a year.
Yeah. And you can apply this anywhere. If your prospect is upset,
that's
right?
The kicker.
You starting to yell back or be upset or match the tonality of that prospect's only going to raise the intensity of that conversation, right? So she says emotional algebra, like X emotion plus X emotion equals Y outcome, right? So if your prospect is angry or giving you rebuttals or is frustrated or is scared or whatever,
it's
you inserting
for a man to match anger with anger, but what the fuck is that going to get you?
So if their frustrations are high and their intensity is high, that's the X part of the equation. If you go low and are calm and are soothing, then that brings that conversation from high frustration back down to neutrality.
Who here has had a conversation? I haven't personally, but I watched this with you and it's hilarious. It was our old CPA from 2016, 2017. So you were all mad and
I fucking hate CPAs.
You're not wrong. So he's all mad and angry, and this CPA of ours, this man probably in his like early 60s, very well-kempt man, nice suit, glasses. He's all very unaffected by all of the awful words Ryan said out of his mouth. And he's like, well, this and this, this and this and this, and whatever debonair thing he said that was really smart and clever. And the situation then immediately was diffused. It's like, yeah, you're pissed. You should be fucking like absolutely as angry. I don't remember what it was. You're so mad.
Probably told me how much I owed the IRS.
Yeah.
It's probably something real simple. Fucking hate those guys too, even more.
The entire situation was diffused by someone calmly, collectively providing their input. That was it. The equation solved. Totally done. And and I think you, because you, the recovered hothead, God bless you. You, I think, had acknowledging the value in this and the application of this is what has made you change the way you react to things. Absolutely, like hands down, like that is what made you like look at things differently, rethink things. Because a lot of times when somebody's being absolute asshole to you, It doesn't feel good. It doesn't make you want to be a nice person. Really doesn't, right? You want to just be super reactive. But when you're just reactive, that's not a planned action. Being reactive, that's not a planned action. And in order to get what you want, you need to have a planned action. You need to have a planned response, a planned tone. I think, what was there, 5 tones, 5 tonalities, Jeremy was saying?
6, yeah.
6, I almost got it, okay. So decisions made in emotion are not decisions made in fact. It was 5, I was right, hey.
Thank you for correcting me and making me better.
You're welcome. Decisions made in emotion.
That's how you stay married, guys. That right there. If you haven't learned anything in 2 days, that right there saves a marriage.
Oh, you're smart. So decisions made in emotion are not decisions made in fact. And it is so hard. We are human beings. We all have heartbeats. We're all just mushy tissues of emotion. It is hard to take emotions out of things. But if you have a goal, if you have anything you want to achieve with your company, it's not an option of whether you should or should not do that or can or can't do that. You have to do that. And you have to bring yourself to that controlled state of doing that. And when you have big decisions, when you're having big conversations, have you ever listened to me and actually not responded to things immediately and wait until you are like totally calm to respond? Have you listened to me and actually done that yet in your life? Still getting there? Okay. Oh, no, yeah, okay. But responding to things in the heat of the moment, that is one way that you are going to ruin a culture in your company, ruin relationships with your employees. One bad conversation with an employee, you know how hard it is to get that relationship back once you have words? All of the proprietary knowledge that employee has, their tenure with you, their time with you, what you've accomplished with them, you don't want to sacrifice that. You don't want to risk losing that. That relationship, the value in that is huge.
And what if they go back to their friend group of employees and they're like, Nate, what an asshole. Yeah, he is being an asshole. Then that negativity's become contagious for a period of time in your culture as well. So now you didn't just piss off one employee. Now you got 5 other employees that have agreed to be upset about the situation as well. So
yeah, in case you don't know what emotions are, I thought this was hilarious. Look at this guy. What actor is that? I think he was
the Lie to Me guy. So that's from the show Lie to Me that used to be on Fox, where they would put people in a glass box and they would ask them questions and they could tell he could tell if they were lying.
Looks like he has Botox because that's not very surprised. I feel like anyways, okay. So opposite emotion action, woohoo. So this is a good chart to, because this is the other kicker before I go to the chart. I don't know. I thought this chart looked cool, looked fancy and smart. So I was like, we'll put this on here. But a big kicker, and for dudes this is hard, sorry to be sexist, but women, we're feelers, we're empaths. We can read people a hell of a lot better than guys can. That's just a fact. Use it to your advantage. Have a female assistant and let them read people for you. It's a great tool to use. But a lot of times people will like give off something that is not, like the face value isn't actually how they actually feel. They can be like really mad about something, but like, are you mad? There's that is the surface level emotion. There's so many subsets. There's positivity, negativity, love, fear, and then there's anger, jealousy, envy, all those little subsets in there. When you are wanting to respond to somebody and handle a scenario, make sure you don't just like, they're a dick. No, let's look into that a little more. Let's really find the root of it and like counteract the situation from there. This is really good though. Acting on this emotion effective. This really, take a picture of this shit. This is like, if you're looking at somebody and wanting to try and understand if what they're saying and doing and giving off to you is genuine, that's a good thing. Because when you don't, going back to what I said in the beginning, having that relationship and really giving a shit about how your employees feel, that's going to dictate how far your company really goes. I don't know if I have another one after this. No, that's it.
Building a culture in a business is key. And
culture eats strategy for breakfast.
It does. And like I said earlier, if you guys notice, they hustled to bring this teleprompter up here. There wasn't Dylan didn't go, that's Cade's fault or that's Monaco's fault. There's nothing like that goes on. That's why we have those core values that we live by. These core values aren't just something that's written on the wall. Like I said earlier, we actually talk about these in every meeting. I'm honestly surprised my employees, they never roll their eyes like, here he goes with this shit again, because I'm drilling it into them. I'm drilling it into their heads. This is how we do life. This is how we do business. This is how we handle problems. This is how we run things. This is If there's water spilled on the floor and Constance is in sales and she sees water spilled on the floor, she's likely to go grab the mop to take care of it because nobody else is around to see that. She doesn't go, oh, that's Beto's job. Where's he at? And it's because of the culture that we've built around these things, right? I've had a toxic culture here before because, like she said, I'm an old yeller. I used to be the guy that would come into sales meetings and be like, listen, you motherfuckers, you got to make more sales. We're going to fucking go broke around here. I've had those meetings like that because that's how bad sales managers had trained me in the past, right? You work for a car dealership, a mortgage company, and it's your fault, your fault, your fault. Here, we have the core value of responsibility, me being the leader, her being the leader, Sean being the leader. We have to take those responsibilities, right? If they're not making sales, then it's a lack of skill set, like Jeremy said. It's a lack of leads, like I'm talking about the last couple of days. It's lack of training, lack of understanding what's going on. So instead of going to a meeting like I used to and being like, you fucking guys are letting me down, we got to do more. It's hey guys, what's the tone of the marketplace that things are a little slow? What are you guys seeing out there? And they might say, Constance may say, man, we got a lot of people that are just, I've got 5 or 6 people right now that the objection I get is I get paid at the end of the month and I want to buy then. I might think we're not making any sales and she might have $100,000 fixing to come through in the next couple of days. And if I come in motherfucking Constance and everything else, then she's like, you know what? I don't care if these damn things close or not. And I'm going to look for another job. And she's a key asset to the company, right? And so you have to really think about when she was talking about asking questions, drip, and all the things that were on there, that makes a huge difference in your culture too. Again, Dylan would have definitely already quit by now if things would have continued down that path. But now,
Thanks for being
it wasn't but a couple of weeks ago, he won the championship belt, and he's like 2 years later, it's about time, motherfuckers. But that's what happens when you start including your people and asking them questions. And so you may just be a salesperson right now. You might be on level 1 and be an employee. But guess what? Eventually, you're going to train a team. You might move into management. You might start your own company because that's level 2, being self-employed. These are the things that you're going to have to know in the future. And that's how you keep people. We've had Dylan's been here for 2 years. Nate's been here for about a year. Zach's been here for 4 years. Taylor, how long? You just celebrated your 3-year anniversary. Right? It's in the average salesperson moves every 8 months, and we're keeping people for these periods of time. And we're not an old company. We just now started hiring people 4 or 5 years ago. I did most of it on my own until then. And so, I hope Taylor never leaves. I hope Constance never leaves, and I treat them like family. Tomorrow, because we've ran this event for 2 days, tomorrow we'll all be at the ranch hanging out, go blow off some steam. They'll shoot some guns. I'll probably see if I can get them to saddle a cow or whatever the hell I might put them into, but this is the time that we spend after work together as a work family. Because if you think about it, you go home every night and you spend 4 hours with your family, 6 to 10, then you're asleep, right? If you're lucky. But you're around your coworkers, you're around your employees 8, 10, 12 hours a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week. They're the closest people to you. They're the closest thing to a real family that most of us have. And I'm not saying family never leaves family and all this stuff like you may hear these other guys say. But if you start treating them that way, it's like, hey, these are people that I spend the most of my time with. These are people that are the most like me because we're all bought into the same culture. It really transforms how the company works. And I think the highest compliment that you could give us as business owners and our leadership team is when you guys come up to us, you're like, man, I watch, and several of you have said this. You're like, hey, I watch how your team operates, man, and that's real impressive. I know Kyle came up to me and he's like, dude, you have a beautiful building, but what's more important is I see how your team operates. And I know this gentleman over here came up to me. He's like, I know that a couple of months ago, you had to go through some transitions in your company, and I can see the difference in how your people operate. I hope one day I have a business where my guys operate that way as well. That's the biggest flex, your people. It really is, And the more you pour into them, the more money they'll make you. The more productive, the more efficient your operation will be, which leads to more money, which just makes things better for you and for them. Right.
For everybody all around.
Cool. What else you got?
That's all I got. We don't have time for Q&A. I always like to end in Q&A. I feel like I'm just talking at people. Dylan, you gave me the serious fast no.
Well, okay. I don't see Jeremy in here just yet. So if somebody does have a question, we got a couple minutes. We could probably answer one. Anybody got questions? Mic runners? Any of that?
Mike Run.
Yes, sir.
So when y'all first started out as a married couple in the business, how was that? I know you said y'all had to go through
A little rough.
right.
Yeah. So you
Go
look
ahead.
like,
You go first.
oh,
Ladies first.
you are very eager to not answer that question first. No, so I mean,
But be honest with them. There's nothing.
I'm always honest. You don't have to tell me to do that. I'm too honest. When you're working with your spouse, I mean, you're facing, first of all, being married is hard. Being married is a job. It's a wonderful job. It's a rewarding job, but it's a job. So you're adding another job to an already full-time job. So now you and your wife are aligned in 2 full-time jobs. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of alignment you have to be into. There's a lot, you are going to face now twice as many challenges as you previously did just as a married couple. You're going to be facing unique challenges every day, you know, and you never know what's going to happen in a business. You never know water bill is, you never know. And so the number one thing advice wise that I say to anybody, no matter what, when you're working together with your spouse, you're trying to make sure that you prioritize your marriage and your relationship. First of all, okay, do the quick stuff. First of all, date night. Make sure you guys have a date night once a week where it's just you guys, not out of the workplace, out of the house. You guys can unwind and have just some you guys time. That honestly, super important for you guys to maintain that.
Non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable.
She's mad. I'm like, get your fucking purse and get in the car anyway. Like, that's every Wednesday at 5 p.m. we do date night because we got kids. We want to still be at home 7, 8 o'clock at night to put them to sleep. Every Wednesday, 5 p.m. is date night for us. We call it the AARP special.
Yeah.
You know?
Always get a table anywhere. Best service. Awesome. That shared calendar so that there's okay, I didn't know you were doing this, so that y'all can see everything, so that there's no confusion. You're not, it was so annoying to me when I'd be like, okay, well, it's 5 o'clock. Where the hell is he? I'm home cooking, whatever, da, 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 da. And you're like, well, I had this. Well, why didn't you tell me? You can't tell me every little thing every day. And so if I have your calendar, it's fine. I'm like wondering where he is. I can see, okay, he's here. Awesome. But the number one thing in terms of people wise, no matter what I have to talk to him about, problem, issue with people, a crazy money question, crazy money problem I have to help fix. If you structure, no matter what you're going to say, even if it's awful, there is a way you can present it in a positive way. And how annoyed are you going to be with me if I just come to you with problems all day? It's going to be really annoying. You're not going to enjoy. Yeah. Well, I do. I just structure it nicely. So, but you don't want to create resentment in your marriage. You want to feel like you want her to come around. You want her to feel comfortable talking to you about anything so that you guys can solve those problems faster. But presenting things in a positive way. And a lot of shit happens every day in your life. I have a whole lot of stuff I could talk to you about too, in terms of just like family and relationship. But I make sure too, if we're just besides structuring things positively to him, I'm really intentional with every little conversation we have, with everything that comes out of my mouth. If I have something going on with one of my girlfriends or whatever, and I'm like doing some stupid shit or whatnot, what is that? What is me complaining to him about one of my old girlfriends I haven't seen in a long time? What is that going to do? That's nothing. Who gives a shit? I think like, what is this? Is this negativity coming out of my mouth? What is that seed going? What is that going to sow? What is that going to do with our? No, I intentionally inject positivity. Simple conversation, business conversations, everything. And you don't have to be fake. It's not about like not saying something or not approaching him as like, it's just the way you structure things. And guess what? That's going to alleviate a hell of a lot of stress for you too, because you're positioning things in a way more solvable way. It's honestly the most powerful thing, and the thing that has allowed us to work effectively together.
That calendar thing she just said is a hack on life. If you can both agree, like as an entrepreneur, salesperson, self-employed person, your calendar is your manager. Everything that you do needs to go on that calendar so that you can look back at the end of the day and know what you did. Oh, I did this at 10. I did this at 11. So at the end of the day, you're not like, I'm exhausted. I don't know what the hell I did today, right?
Okay, also hack note CPA wise, If any of you're going over anything, you're like, shit, I don't know what that check was for. Go.
You can look on that calendar that day. And so for her, she may need me to do something, or I may need her to do something. I don't have to go, hey, Amy, can you do this? And be disappointed that she didn't do it. I just go on our joint calendar and put it in. Hey, this is Amy's job. And so she's running her calendar as if it's her boss as well. She needs me to pick up the kids from school. She just goes and puts it on my calendar because she knows I'm checking it every other hour to make sure that I'm on point. And I'm like, well, that just randomly appeared, but okay, I'll go pick up the kids at 5 because obviously she's got something else going on. And man, that first of all, for your assistants, for your personal assistant, your wife, all of them should have a shared calendar. My whole company has access to my calendar. And if they need something, they don't pop in my office and go, hey, boss, real quick, I need your time. They go, oh shit, he's busy, but he's got 15 minutes open at this time. I'll just take that from him. Dude, it is a game changer. There's no distractions. I can stay focused on every task and every time block, whether it's family, whether it's work, whether it's a media thing, whether it's a sales thing, a management thing. It's an absolute game changer. And Google Calendar's free, so it costs you nothing to do that. So good.
Great.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Oh.